The sun hung low over the jagged ridges, casting long, cruel shadows over the valley below. The team of elite U.S. Marine snipers lay scattered among the rocks, rifles poised, eyes narrowing through scopes. They had trained for this mission for months, studied the terrain, memorized wind patterns, and yet, every shot missed. One by one, targets that should have fallen with precision remained eerily untouched. Frustration etched itself onto their faces, the tight lines of pride beginning to crack. "Again," muttered Sergeant Calloway, voice taut with anger, as he reloaded for the 5th attempt. Sweat mixed with dust on his brow, his hands trembling not from fear, but from the unbearable sting of failure. Each missed shot felt like a personal betrayal, a humiliation that gnawed at their confidence. They weren't just fighting an enemy, they were fighting themselves, their own pride, their own expectations, the unspoken fear of letting down everyone who depended on them. Tension crackled between the young Marines, each glance heavy with unspoken accusations. One jerked his rifle too sharply, another cursed under his breath, frustration turning into blame. And then there was Ode, man sitting at the edge of the ridge, leaning on a weathered walking stick. His uniform was faded, his medals dulled by time, but his eyes were sharp, calculating, and unmistakably alive. Retired, forgotten by the system, he had once been a Marine sniper of unmatched skill. He had seen missions like this go wrong before missions, where trust shattered like glass, where betrayal cut deeper than any bullet. The young Marines didn't notice him at first. They were too wrapped in their own failure, too proud to accept help. But he observed every movement, every miscalculation. The recoil, the breathing, the impatience, they were sloppy. They aimed too quickly, relied on gadgets over instincts, and most importantly, they lacked patience. That quiet, almost sacred patience that separated a marksman from a mere shooter. His memory drifted to a mission decades ago, a mission that should have been flawless, but wasn't. Comrades he had trusted with his life had failed him, left him exposed, and watched as he suffered the consequences alone. The memory was a bitter pill, one he had never truly swallowed. And now, watching these young men struggle, he felt an odd mix of sorrow and quiet determination. He knew the art of the shot was not in the weapon, not in technology, but in the mind, the heart, the patience, to wait for perfection. The lesson had been expensive in his youth, paid in blood and betrayal, but it had forged him into something sharper than any rifle, and he would show them. Not yet, not openly, but he would. First he would watch, letting their failures speak louder than words. Their pride would be tested, their tempers tried. And when they were ready or when they were desperate enough, he would step in. And then, perhaps, he would teach them the lesson that no modern training could provide. For now, the missed shots echoed across the valley like a drumbeat of impending change. The Marines were restless. Their pride still simmered with anger, their confidence fractured by the empty valley echoes of missed shots. The old veteran had remained silent, observing them like a hawk perched on the ridge, and now, finally, he stepped forward. "You're aiming too fast," he said quietly, his voice carrying a weight that made the Marines glance up sharply. "Slow your breathing, slow your mind. The rifle is nothing without patience." The words cut through the tension like a cold wind, but the young men bristled. "Who are you to tell us how to shoot?" Calloway barked, gripping his rifle tighter. His pride was wounded, and instinct screamed to defend it. The others whispered agreements, half in fear, half in defiance. The veteran didn't flinch. "I've walked where you're standing. I've missed more shots than you can imagine. I've paid for it, and I survived." With deliberate movements, he laid down his own rifle. He didn't fire yet. Instead, he demonstrated, adjusting his breathing, aligning his scope, and taking the most improbable shot across the valley. The target, a small metal can perched on a distant rock, exploded with a sharp clang. Not a miss, not a graze. A perfect hit. Silence fell. The Marine's pride wavered, replaced by something else. Calloway's jaw tightened, frustration mixing with respect he wasn't ready to voice. "Beginner's luck," one muttered, but even he couldn't hide the twitch of uncertainty. The veteran leaned back, his eyes distant. "Luck has nothing to do with it," he said. "It's years of learning the rhythm between the bullet and the heart, knowing when to trust your hands and when to trust the wind. Every shot carries a story, don't waste it." As he spoke, his mind drifted. Memories clawed at him, bitter and sharp. Years ago, on a mission far from here, he had been part of a team trusted with a critical operation. They had been young, skilled, and united until betrayal crept in. One of their own had leaked intelligence, leading to an ambush that cost lives he had sworn to protect. The weight of guilt, of survival, of having been abandoned, had never left him. He had carried it like a phantom wound. Now, looking at these young Marines, he saw potential and the same pride that had blinded his former comrades. He saw the mistakes before they even made them, and he resolved silently that he would not let history repeat itself. Not this time, not on his watch. Slowly the Marines began to mimic his stance, his breathing, the patient rhythm of his eyes, scanning the terrain. Shots started to hit the target, imperfectly at first, but steadily improving. The veteran walked among them, correcting grips, adjusting angles, whispering subtle guidance. Every correction was gentle, yet firm, a careful blend of authority and compassion. By the end of the day, a fragile trust had formed. The Marines were still proud, still wary, but they had glimpsed the wisdom of the man before them. And the veteran, watching them finally land consistent shots, allowed himself a faint, almost imperceptible smile. This was only the beginning. The real lessons about trust, about betrayal, about revenge would come later. For now, he had planted the seed, and when it grew, it would bloom in a way they could never forget.